Hello, welcome. It's your girl, Charlie Author, once again. I haven't been on video in a while, so I thought I would make a triumphant return with the release of Bridgerton Season 3. As you can see, we are in front of Bridgerton House today. So yeah, I'm just going to take this time to discuss the first half of the new season featuring Colin Bridgerton and Penelope Featherington. I'm a huge Bridgerton fan, so this is going to be full of spoilers for previous seasons, this season, all that kind of stuff. So if you've not seen it or don't want spoilers, look away now. Without further ado, let's get into it. Our recap is season one was Daphne and Simon, who eventually became the Duke and Duchess of Hastings, and that was cool. My personal favorite was season two, being Anthony and Kate, who then became Viscount and Viscountess Bridgerton. And now we are on to season three, which features Colin and Penelope. So this season started off with a bang. So we all know that Eloise has discovered that Penelope is in fact Lady Whistledown. That was a huge blow up at the end of last season. Their friendship was in tatters. They've just not had a great time of it, right? So that was really sad because they were two kindred spirits, they were best friends and all this kind of stuff. And not only has Penelope lost her best friend, but she's also lost her refuge in the Bridgerton household. She was able to kind of go there when she was feeling apart from her family and all that kind of stuff. So now she's lost this whole connection that she had with this loving big family where she doesn't get the same at home, right? This whole season's theme is about acceptance, both I guess of others, but as well as yourself, and loving yourself for who you are, and not letting anybody else tear you down, which is difficult at the best of times, but it's extremely difficult in this society where and Penn actually does say this, where in fact everybody's opinion of you is how you succeed in this world. Do you know what I mean? So that was definitely a great overall clinching theme, other than the romance and the love. So that was really, really nice. Where I'm going to start first is Colin. Now, wasn't a huge fan of Colin, like most people weren't, because, by nature of his position in the Bridgerton siblings, he's a third son. He's forgettable. He was in and out because he's doing his soul searching, traveling, and he's gone here, there, and everywhere. And so Colin was kind of side dish, halloumi, couscous, do you know what I mean? And having to do that transition from side dish to main meal, leg and thigh, two-piece, he had to get the Bridgerton glow up. And we all know that that is a thing. It wasn't as hard to do for Jonathan Bailey because he is fucking gorgeous. Like, ugh. Anyway, we won't go there. For Colin, there was this huge thing about turning him from a boy into a man, especially if he was going to be the lead and have, the sexual content and all that kind of stuff. It was so apparent to me how hard they were trying to make us like Colin in a sexual capacity. So it's like, he turns up and all the girls are like, gaggling over him and and it's just like, okay, fine. And then we had a few scenes of him like in bed with some prostitutes, like, threesomes, and talking with the other guys about all his adventures abroad and all the countesses he was with and blah 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 blah. And for me personally, and not it's not even a huge criticism, but for me personally, it felt really forced. It wasn't just a change of beard shape, hair coif, anything like that. It was just they were really actively throwing in sexy scenes for Colin to appear appealing. And I get that from a business and a show perspective, but from a just kind of a fan perspective, like, we don't need this. Like, we know Penn likes him and we know what's going to happen, so we didn't really need that. Now, we all know that this is a friends to lovers situation. We all love the trope, enemies to lovers, friends to lovers. It's been interesting seeing in the first 4 episodes, it's been interesting seeing my reactions to Colin suddenly discovering that Penelope is desirable, because I get it. If someone is your friend, you're not meant to really see them in a romantic or sexual nature. I get that. It was really hypocritical because, oh, I'll help you find a husband. Okay. And not once did you ever consider that that husband could be you. Like, he never, ever, 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 ever put himself in the running of somebody who Penelope could be with, or Penelope was someone he could be with simply because she was his friend. So even though it might have been an unconscious bias, it was still a bias. And that has been quite difficult for me to get my head around, especially once she starts gaining the attentions of Lord Deblin. Because it's like, okay, now because someone else sees her worth, now you do too. It's like, well, sees her romantic worth, because he has always appreciated her. So that was definitely a thing for me to get my head around, that I wasn't particularly happy with young Colin. But considering how he feels about Whistledown and ready to, end her and all of that good stuff, I'm getting I'm feeling like I'm gonna get an Aedeon moment. And for those who have read Throne of Glass, that will make more sense. Where he's gonna be really high and mighty. He's gonna really kick Lysandra slash Penelope when they're down, and it's gonna make us look at him and think like, okay, you didn't even fancy her until yesterday, okay? Like, Lord Deblin liked her for who she was from day one. You had to do all of this. Okay? You had to do all of this. So that's a whole situation. Other than that, loving his transition. The last thing I will say about Colin is that his speech, there's always the speech. Nah, I wasn't. It wasn't really for me. So you have Simon's one, which was "I burn for you." Anthony's one was, "and it is not far enough." And then I don't even know what Colin's one was. It wasn't given. It wasn't giving what it was supposed to give. Okay. So I may have to rewatch that again, but it wasn't giving my Cantonese. Not far enough. So moving on, because we spent too much time on Colin. Next up, we are going to talk about the queen that is Penelope Featherington. Now, we know that Pen was always going to have her glow up, but this glow up, Jesus, this glow up is absolutely stunning. Okay, the makeup, the fresh face, the quintessential English rose with the pale skin and the rosy cheeks, complementing what is still the same, really harsh orange red hair that she has, but just showing what colors and muting things down and less is more can do for her face, for her hair, for her frame, everything. Because the previous seasons would have you thinking she was as big as a house and that she could, never get her sexy on, kind of thing. And Nicola Coughlan, yes, queen. Yes, queen. Doing it for the plus size girlies everywhere. Because just getting a little bit of that corset action, making sure her lines are there, using the right colors, the mints, the blues, the subtle violets that they've been using for her. Chef's fucking kiss. I did love that it was Pen looking at herself and saying, you know what, I'm tired of this. I need to get out my house. I can't be around my sisters anymore. I want to do what I need to do, and made that step herself, as opposed to someone, i.e. Colin, saying to her, oh, why don't you fix your appearance and maybe you could, they could have gone that way. In that, I know the book's already there, so it's probably in the source material, which I have not read. But rather than having somebody prompt her to do it, she did it on her own. And that is more the Pen that we know, because she is smart. But no, Penelope was just, there's always less to say when you just love someone. Everything about her was awesome. Episode 2 had me in absolute bits, okay? Like, I could die tomorrow and I don't want to die without ever having been kissed. Just, it was just great. It was, yeah, yeah. I felt that. Like, I had my time as a wallflower, as hard as that is to believe. But I had my time as a wallflower, and it was a lot to be around people that were more popular than you and more prettier than you and more successful and all this kind of other stuff. And that moment of feeling like you are just going to be left on the figurative shelf. And in her life, in Pen's life, this is not figurative. This is a very real thing. It was in the feels, all up in the feels. That was great. And as much as that's the moment that Colin realizes that there could be something else there. I would have appreciated him discovering that just purely because of her personality and how he makes her feel, how she makes him feel, and all that kind of stuff, as opposed to, oh my God, I've kissed her and it actually made my willy stand to attention. And it's just like, okay, yeah, well, anybody can kiss anyone and get a bit aroused. You know what I mean? Why did it take that? Why couldn't you see her for who she is, considering you're giving her the whole spiel of like, you are Penelope Featherington, you need to remember that. And well, you remember that, bitch. So that was a nice connection between Penelope and Francesca. I will move on to Francesca actually, because I'm I'm not sure where I'm at with her. I feel like the promo was all Francesca, and they're pushing this girl at me. Sorry, her name is not at me just now. I'll find it later and probably put it somewhere. But it was very much, pushing Francesca in the reasoning, I guess, that she may be the next season or whatever it is. But with Francesca, I mean, I do appreciate the juxtaposition of, I'm a Bridgerton, but I don't like being an out there in your face. I come from this large family, Bridgerton. I'm more quiet, I'm more reserved. I respect that. 100% respect it. But I'm not sure how we're supposed to get behind it. Because even when the guys were talking to her, when the different like lords and whatnot were talking to her, and she said, like, I didn't expect to be interrogated. I completely agreed. I completely agree. However, someone says to you, what are your hobbies? You say, oh, I like to play the pianoforte. Oh, that's great. Songs, whatever. You say yes. And that, is there anything else you like? Oh, well, pianoforte takes up a lot of my time. So you only like one thing. Okay. Well, now you're the problem. There is this possibility, I guess, that there may be pushing forward the fact that she might be a bit more neurodivergent than her siblings. So there may be that element. I don't know if that's a stereotype. I don't know if that's politically correct. I'm not sure. But because we did have the presence of a oh gosh, am I going to say the right word? Is disabled? So non-able-bodied. So there was a lord that was in a wheelchair, basically. Forgive me if that's not the right word. In a wheelchair, and then at the very start, we had somebody who was coming out in front of Queen Charlotte, and they were deaf. So there was, or hard of hearing, and there was sign language and that kind of thing. So there were a few bits in the season that were promoting, other types of people and other types of romances and love, whether it's, as I said, people who aren't able-bodied, or who have problems with hearing or anything. And that, it was a lovely addition. So maybe possibly Francesca adds to that with some ND type qualities, is the word I'm looking for. So there is that. But outside of that, I'm just not particularly sure what I'm supposed to really, she's not as personable as the other characters. I quite like Daphne. She was really funny. I liked Kate because she was all strong-willed and this, that, and the other. We're definitely behind Pen because we know she's the blossoming wallflower. What is Francesca? After this season, what am I supposed to get from her? I'm not entirely sure. So, moving along swiftly to Eloise and Cressida Calpa. Now, when we saw the promos, everybody was in uproar because how could you leave Penn and suddenly be friends with Cressida fucking Calpa? Okay, it's like, she's super bitch, nobody likes her. But this has been an interesting development in seeing how lonely she is, how friendless she is, her home situation, her father saying, if you don't find someone of your own choosing, I'm gonna make you marry one of my aged friends. You're starting to feel for her. And you know she did do some silly things when it came to Lord Deblin, obviously, because she's just as desperate, but things like that helped us get behind her and understand where she's coming from and what she's feeling, as opposed to Francesca, just to step back there, who doesn't have as much or isn't given as much for us to care. And again, that sounds like I'm generalizing. That's how I feel. If you agree, cool. If you don't, cool. But where Cressida had, oh bless her, her parents treat her like this and this is like this, that kind of thing, I wasn't getting that from Francesca. um eloise Eloise is a difficult one for me because we know she's a favorite. She's super funny, we love her, but it's like, I get it. I'm gonna try and go and do the society thing, but how long is that going to last if you're still, wanting to shoot yourself in the middle of conversations about crochet stitching? Do you know what I mean? You're not being true to yourself. we she knows it, we know it, everybody knows it. So where Cressida was meant to be the villain of this, I'm actually more behind her than I am Eloise, because cool, you did the right thing and went and apologized to Penn and tried to make amends in that way, but then said, oh, okay, I just want to step back from it, but I still don't want to talk to you, which she's perfectly within her right to do. But it's like you're still bitching about her to your brother and to Cressida. Do you care or do you not care? Pick one. And then from the teaser of the next 4 seasons, she's actually going to turn around and say, oh, you can't marry my brother. Like, excuse me, like, what goes on between me and my husband or soon to be husband, and how I navigate that is entirely up to me. Like, you are allowed to be, I say allowed because I have brothers and I wouldn't want them to be hurt by anyone. But there is still this underlining, this tiny smidgen of hypocrisy and holier than thou element that's coming from Eloise. Because again, bias, unconscious bias, she does feel like, not even feel like, she knows she's a Bridgerton. She's aware of her privilege, and how she talks to Penn when she's upset shows her true nature a lot of the time, I personally feel. So yeah, where Cressida kind of lifted a bit, Eloise, yeah, kind of went down a bit. Of the season Highlights of the season were the kiss in season 2, episode 2, the sexy time in episode 4, because that carriage scene was giving. Absolutely fucking giving, darling. I was like, yes, queen, get your titties out in the moving vehicle. Oh, Cantony, uh, Kate and Anthony just in marital bliss. I was here for all of that. But very sad there wasn't a lot of Cantony. So, oh, we're going to go back on our honeymoon. No, stay here. Stay here so I can see Jonathan Bailey, the love of my life. Oh, Benedict and his cougar. Like, I know people really, really, really like Benedict. I have nothing against Benedict. I think he's amazing. Is he giving main leading man material just yet? I personally don't think so. Okay. But then Colin didn't either. But very different. Hyacinth and Gregory, always hilarious. Love them. And then, oh, lastly, biggest one, Violet and Marcus. Violet is about to get her lady garden tended to. Okay, I just hope she don't hurt herself, because how long has Edmund been dead? How old is Hyacinth? 12, 13? She hasn't had some dick in 13 years. I hope she don't hurt herself. I doubt he'll break her heart. I mean, I hope he won't break her heart. We don't need rates in the show. This is all about romance. So it's going to end up, and I doubt the kids are going to have like some stepdad Lord Anderson. That's not going to happen. But I am very excited for Violet's garden to be gardened, you know, because she's an amazing mother, and she's really sweet, and she's really kind, and she needs that. I would like for Lady Danbury's garden to be tended to. That would be interesting. But doubt that's really a factor here. Bridgerton season 3. Colin, we're out. We're getting there. We're getting married. She's obviously going to say yes. So the third act, as we all know, the third act is definitely going to be him discovering that she is Lady Whistledown. How that's going to be navigated, I personally don't know, because I haven't read the books. For those that have read the books, they might know, but then this is also a show, so the show may change it slightly. We don't know. So there's still an element of surprise, which is wonderful. But let me know your thoughts wherever you're watching this. Let me know in comments and likes and messages and all that kind of stuff. Just let me know wherever. I had an absolutely amazing time with this. I've watched it twice already. And just so we know the time, it's the 17th. I've watched it twice. So part 2, June 13th. We'll do another quick one of these. Let me know what you think, if you had fun, I certainly did. All the thoughts, all the theories. Let's go. Have fun. Make sure you check out www.charlieauthor.com for links to everything, books, this, YouTube. Search me. Google me, baby. See you guys soon. Bye.